announcement that was made before the break. Tomorrow from morning 9 to 5, there's another room upstairs where the organizers have created a setup so that people can have more intimate conversations around thematic areas. So that at the end of these two-day deliberations, we actually have people coming together and doing partnerships. There are actually new relationships that get built up. Challenges get addressed in a more focused way around the table. So I'm just repeating, these are the thematic areas. You need to sign up outside at the registration desk, and the timing will be informed to you tomorrow as to when you need to go for those discussions. The thematic areas are education, health, the differently abled and vulnerable groups, livelihoods, youth, women empowerment, environment, community development, transparency and credibility issues, project monitoring and evaluation. The last two are more generic. So these are the topics for tomorrow if you're interested in having a more intimate discussion. People who could sign up could be from NGOs, you could be from the government space or from the corporate space. The idea is to have perhaps all the three around a table discussing a thematic area and figuring out what is the next action steps. Of course, there will be sessions going on in this room, but these will be very crisp 20-minute group sessions upstairs, so you're not going to really miss too much. Thank you.
And second piece of housekeeping before we start with our expert panel is Sambhavana Society is currently passing out feedback forms, and we would be very, very appreciative if everyone could have a look at them and even leave just a little bit of feedback so that the next time we put on a conference like this, it can be even more effective. So on that note, we are going to start with our second discussion of the day, of the afternoon, on CSR skills and internal capacity building. I'd like to introduce our panel, Ms. Mamta Sharma, the Manager of Corporate Citizenship and Corporate Affairs with IBM India, Lieutenant General Rajender Singh, CEO of DLF, Ms. Namita Vikas, President and Chief Sustainability Officer for Yes Bank Limited, Ms. Deepa Menon, Vice President, CSR Corporate and Communications for PVR Limited, Mr. Praveen Agarwal, CEO of the Swades Foundation, and being moderated by Mr. George Hamilton, the President. Mr. George Hamilton of the Institute for Sustainable Communities, and being moderated by Namita Vikas. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss such an important and pertinent topic on CSR skills. I guess through the morning you've had very interesting session with Dr. Chatterjee and others talking about what really CSR would mean from an India perspective. I have prepared some points, so I may be a little repetitive. Please bear with me, and I have a bad throat, so I may cough a bit in between. So in India, we've seen business move from philanthropic focus to that of holistic sustainability approach with business models that go beyond financial gains. These models have looked at creating a wider economic, environmental, and social impact using a profit-driven business approach. I believe that ensuring long-term business success by contributing towards economic and social development, a healthy environment, and a stable society may be a close definition of CSR and sustainable development that has emerged in India. Undoubtedly, CSR and sustainable development are one of the most important factors for business survival, and we've been going over this over the last 2 years now. While theory rightfully suggests that sustainability and business responsibility must be driven directly by the CEO, considering the various business pressures and commitments faced by the leader, the support of a strong CSR or a sustainability leader in an organization is extremely essential. This is necessary for developing, implementing, and communicating the CSR strategy to internal and external stakeholders. Therefore, the point that I'm making here is that sustainability or CSR principles and strategies would need to be aligned to organizational structure and business objectives and driven by a specialist who understands the connection between CSR and business units. In many organizations, we've seen CSR being a part of HR or the marketing team. However, going forward, the CSR unit may need to emerge as a specialized function with technically competent talent made up of social development and environmental management experts who have detailed knowledge and understanding of the business sector that they work in. It's also very important for the CSR team with varied experiences and technical background to be a cohesive, creative, and inspiring bunch that are able to connect the dots with each of the business units' financial objectives in order to achieve the triple bottom line success. The combination of the team would also depend on what exactly the CSR strategy of an organization entails. Is it a function where social responsibility and environmental management is integrated under one unit, or these are separate functions? The talent pool and the skill set would then very largely depend on a structure that evolves. So I'm taking an example of Yes Bank. Yes Bank, we've leapfrogged traditionally from a traditional philanthropy-based CSR to responsible banking, which is finding solutions to social and environmental issues, thus creating shared value. Given our holistic sustainability strategy, our mission is to link sustainability with stakeholder value creations through innovative business solutions and at the same time weave sustainability principles into the bank's core business strategy and processes. So at the bank, we encourage the CSR team to become successful sustainability professionals by inculcating the spirit of ideation, innovation, implementation, and inspiration through multidimensional projects. This is an integrated function which focuses on strategic giving, employee volunteering, sustainable banking, which concentrates on creating innovative business models for the bottom of the pyramid, the triple bottom line accounting, which is all about systems and processes for mapping your own carbon footprint and reporting, and sustainability thought leadership, where research and advisory services culminate into policy advocacy and building capacities with our partners. Naturally, for all of this, the skill set then and the training needs are very diverse. Since it's not straitjacketed at all, it poses some challenges. Where would one look for such kind of talent? Would the campuses that we hire from have this talent pool? Where would senior CSR roles come from? So what did we do? Firstly, along with our HR, we mapped specific skill needs to institutions that teach curriculum which looks at CSR and environmental engineering. For example, IIM Ahmedabad, TIS, or IRMA offer courses and internships to students on social innovation, which becomes very relevant when you have to work on those particular areas within the function. Institutions like NITI, that's the National Institute of Industrial Engineering, or EDI, Entrepreneurial Development Institution, they look at environment engineering. So here we found the talent that not only have skill sets suiting our requirements, but also the mindset of a sustainability sensitive person. And as a step in the direction, today we actively hire from these institutions, particularly for the responsible banking unit. So we look at the IIMs and the Ivy League schools in India. However, we have a particular focus of going to these colleges for these particular roles. Now, coming to lateral hiring, that is experienced professionals, we look for a good understanding of, so from a bank's perspective, it is important that the professional understands sustainable development, he or she understands the financial sector, and has the ability to make the linkages and effective communication, because effective communication is an important tool to ensure a buy-in from various stakeholders. Besides this, we look for technical expertise that would help, the person would be able to analyze and improve the bank's operations and implement environment management systems. Projects that also additionally look at microfinance, environment, social risk sustainable finance and development banking. So these are the various experiences. I'm just narrating how we have evolved a model where we go very specific, deep diving into what are the roles and really mapping them with what is the availability. We have to also look for a combination of expertise and experience, and we are very mindful that this talent would come from varied quarters. Through a very robust annual training calendar, we enroll our CSR teams to external certification programs like the CSR Strategy Development and Measurement, the CSAP, which is Certified Sustainability Assurance Practitioners qualification, Environment Management Systems for ISO 14001, SA 8000, so on and so forth. And we look at specific to the banking sector, at the same time courses that are held by reputed entities like the GRI, the GIZ, or the CII for that matter. Internally also, we constantly work with our HR on certain productivity and effective management training programs. As an organization that looks at creating shared value, for us it is also important to look at enhancing the knowledge and the skills of our stakeholders. So very quickly, I want to cite one example. Given the regulatory development on around CSR, not-for-profit organizations would assume an even more pertinent role with the 2% contribution that will get infused into the market now. They need to strengthen their management bandwidth, good governance practices, and operational efficiencies. To address this growing need of not-for-profits, Yes Bank engages with NGOs to build capacity, thereby creating scale and impact multipliers. I would like to bring out the fact that it is important for organizations to create stakeholder value and nurture not just CSR talent internally, but also go beyond, thus building a very solid CSR ecosystem. Well, that's what I believe would facilitate this CSR journey in India. I would now like to invite Mamta to give her point of view. So many of us have heard about the IBM Way by Buck Rogers, who gave insights on the world's most successful organization. So today I would request Mamta to talk about the IBM Way, the CSR strategy. Yeah.
So thanks, Namita. I think you set the context really, really well. It makes our life very easy now. I can't see whether the... Okay, let me just start off. So let me just start off. I think my presentation is going to be more focused on how do you kind of really choose your CSR team, how do you build it. I think what is important also, I think many of you in the previous speakers spoke about culture, business, sustainability, and of course the business strategy and so on. So keep going, right? Quickly. So what I'm going to be talking about is first the organizational culture. And it's also important when you're choosing the people because, for example, our chairperson who took over very recently talked about IBM wanting to be the most essential company, not only for our clients, but also to the world. It's a very powerful statement, very difficult to probably implement. But when she made this podcast to the employees, most of us said, wow, I want to be part of this journey. I think it's very important that kind of culture and that kind of vision is set right in the beginning. Okay? So it's not just that culture, but what is also important is the values that the company has. For example, we had a values jam a few years ago and invited employees to really talk about what kind of values that IBM should have as a corporate. And these are the 3 values: dedication to every client's success, innovation that matters for our company and for the world, trust and personal responsibility in all relationships. And this really gives you, it's almost like a guiding principle for you to really take your, really identify the right kind of people to work for you. Next one. So I think someone said about branding. It's very important also to kind of have employees understand that your brand matters, and IBM brand is one of the world's well-known brands, and it's important for us to be able to establish and grow the brand. So in IBM, if you really look at it, we say IBM brand is experienced by our clients and others through IBMers. So it's very important, therefore, to choose the right kind of people who understand what branding is all about and really help grow the brand. And our talent, of course, is the greatest asset that we have. So now, having said that, so how do you ensure that you have the right kind of skills? And one of the ways in which we do is we have something called our own competencies, which is what each of our managers have been trained to look for in a person. But sometimes, yes, it's very hard to have all these qualities in one person. So obviously we need to look at what are these. So I'll read for George's sake, I'll read these. Partner for the client's success, embrace challenge, collaborate globally, act with a systematic perspective, build mutual trust, influence through expertise, continuously transform, and communicate for impact and help IBMers succeed. So in this, I want to just pick up one just to explain how it works. So collaborate globally, if you look at it, IBM is a company which is in 170 countries. How do we ensure that all our employees are contributing towards our brand or contributing towards our vision? If you really look at our previous chairman, Sam Palmisona, mentioned in one of our CSR workshops that we had, where global CSR heads were there. And he said in IBM, if you have, your skills can take you only to a certain extent. But what would take you further is your collaboration with other functions internally, and also collaborations outside the function, outside your IBM. That's what is going to grow you as a person, which is very, very important. So this is just one example. So coming to the CSR skills, I think I must congratulate Dr. Chatterjee for setting up this certification course. But what I want to highlight here is, first of all, knowledge and experience of working with the communities are very important. So, so far we've been only talking about social work and so on. This certificate is important. But what is important is understanding of the business and its strategies and goals. I think it's very, very important. So I'll give you certain examples in this. And in my own role, I constantly work with our strategy teams, and I work with other functions within our teams, like we have a separate university relations work with the universities. I work with, of course, the workforce development team and diversity that you talked about earlier. And it's very important also to understand that more and more clients are wanting to work with organizations that really contribute to the communities. So many a times I'm called by my clients team to come and talk to the clients who visit us about what we do in the community. It's becoming more and more important. So if I don't understand what the clients want or what our business is doing, I won't be able to really articulate what we are doing in the communities. And as we also have to understand the business strategy and goal in terms of where does the business want to go, which are the cities that we are targeting, so therefore what should be the go-to-market strategy, even from the CSR point of view. And of course, the working experience of working with the government and organizations. I think it's becoming important that whoever is working in the CSR team do understand that governments, what is the national agenda of the government, first of all, and secondly, how do we work with the government? They have certain constraints, yes. How do we work around it? How do we complement them? How do we supplement them? That needs to be understood. So the CSR professionals' requirement, or the way they look at their own profession, developing themselves, is going to change with these kind of new way of working, if I may say. So being global citizen, one that is culturally sensitive and globally aware is important too. I mean, many of us, we already have discussion earlier where Indian companies are looking abroad. And again, we as multinationals, we are looking at different, different countries. So it's very important that you are a global citizen. And again, communication is going to change. Earlier, probably the CSR professionals were writing only reports, but now it's not that. We have to go beyond that to actually, I think, Namita, you said that, how do we communicate to the stakeholders? How do we communicate to the larger population on what we are doing? Social media is becoming very important. In IBM, we have very active social media. Again, it has its own challenges. How do you kind of control it and manage it? But if you really look at it, in our case, I would say that it's becoming important to communicate internally as well as externally, because the kind of younger population that we have, they only know the language of social media. So to communicate to them, you need to learn to communicate. So we have, in fact, a site called Desi Cops. You can all go and have a look at it, where our employees who are volunteering share their experiences. We have something like 45,000 IBMers who volunteer. In addition to that, we have very structured couple of programs where IBMers take part. Next one. I just wanted to share that because here I wanted to connect how you create the skills within the team to also look at how do you capacity build in the NGOs and other organizations. So we have, this is just one example, and based on skill-based volunteering, IBM really specializes in skill-based volunteering. So if you really look at it here, we have a Peace Corps version of Corporate Service Corps, where we, right now as we are speaking, there is the application process open across IBM globally. And IBMers are invited to apply for this program. It's a competitive process. We have a review board in each country which looks at these applications. We select, typically in India, the 1,000 people apply, only about 100 get selected. So it's that competitive. Once they get selected, they are placed in an emerging country in a multicultural group. 12 of us, for example, will go to a different country and to work in different NGOs in groups. And typically, it's a 12-group team, but at least about 10 of them are different from different countries. And we pick up, just go back, we pick up very specific tasks to do it. For example, we may come up with a technology roadmap for them, or marketing plan, or business strategy. In the process, what happens is there is a lot of knowledge transfer that takes place to the NGOs as well. At the same time, the employees or our IBMers learn about the challenges that the community faces, and therefore they're able to, their leadership skill develop. So it is actually a partnership between the HR, which wants to develop leadership, global leaders for IBM, and also the giving back to the community. Or I would say giving back is the wrong word, because we are also learning a lot from the community. So if you really look at it worldwide, we've got about 2,000 employees who have already gone through this program. We've had about 150 teams that have gone across 29 countries. In India, we've had about 19 teams deployed in different parts of India: Indore, Calcutta, Coimbatore, Chennai, lots of cities. And we have partnered with more than about 60 organizations, including Seva and TIS, and you take even Concept Society, which is a small organization in Indore. It's been a great opportunity for us to not only learn, but also to provide skill-based volunteering. There are another program, which is Service Grants, where we place our IBM consultants to go to an NGO and really work on capacity building, like project management skill, or developing social media skills and so on. It's a very structured program, and it's very important that we do both internal development as well as external. Thank you.
Thanks, Mamta. It's good to see the way you brought out organizational values and collaboration, which is not just global but more local. So, moving on to the entertainment sector, PVR, I just got to know that the abbreviation is Priya Village Roadshow. And the company was founded in 1997 as a joint venture between Priya Exhibitors and Village Roadshow of Australia. So we have with us Deepa Menon, Vice President, CSR and Corporate Communication, who would share with us the PVR CSR case study.
Thank you, Namita. I'd like to specially thank IICA, IBM, and Sambhavana for giving me an opportunity all the way from Delhi to come and make this presentation, and I'm happy to kind of put this up to you. I thought that if this presentation, which is on Global Conference on CSR India, and very specifically on CSR skills and internal capacity building for conducting CSR, I could pick up very specific case, which is partnership, primarily, a very important tool for today for us in terms of how we at PVR evolve the context of relating. Partnership is a very important tool to internally improvise the way we function on day-to-day basis. At the same time, have a very complete strategy which is built in on to reach out. So my presentation is divided into very specifically few parts. Why do we need partnership? A case study of PVR Limited, which is a CSR program called PVR Nest. And the spread of this program for the past 7 years, which is mainly Delhi and NCR and some part of Mumbai, and hence some of the programs at a pan-India level. And very specifically that how basically some of the learnings and experiences of partnerships have been built in some of our employees, the way we actually conduct our CSR programs. So this is a quick introduction of PVR Limited. It's the largest cinema exhibition network in India with 351 screens, recently acquired Cinemax, 85 locations and at around 90,000 seats, and amongst the top 10 multiplex chain across the globe in terms of its footfalls. 56 million consumers kind of has entered 2012 and 13 at PVR. We are the market leader with approximately 40% of share of Hollywood movie collections and around 22% share of Bollywood movie collections in India. So the CSR at PVR's context was very, very clearly coming out from our consumers, connecting with our patrons, with our clients, connecting with our society and community we operate. And it was very important for us to change the way we were working within the company. So that, I think, was a very, very important core to make the company progressive and forward-looking, both inside and outside. So some of the core CSR program, I'm just going to put that in 1 or 2 slides for you to basically get a cursory understanding of some of our programs. We demonstrate our CSR activities in and around our business areas, very primarily PVR cinemas and properties, which means that we work with children who are just across PVR cinemas, underprivileged, require complete rehab plan. And it's also important for companies like us to ensure that we value nature in terms of the way we develop most of our operational practices and how well we conduct those operational activities inside. So it's important for us to look into environment also. Each and every program is built in by a partnership model. When we say, so if it is a children's program, it certainly would have a government on board. It certainly would have a corporate on board. It certainly would have the local market traders on board. It will certainly have the local RWAs on board. The local implementing agency, which is kind of taking the program forward. And hence, one of the school, the mainstream school on board. So every program is built in under the partnership model, and hence, most of our CSR skill building and the internal capacity building is based on the partnership model, and every team member is evolving the program around partnership. So just in a nutshell, one of our flagship program is called Childscapes, which is to relate with society, community, and neighborhood. And every child who's around PVR cinemas gets a complete rehab plan, a complete education, nutrition, health, participation in all the workshops which are important for them to kind of move on. have different, child-centric workshops like life skills, vocational training, and then further make sure that these kids are mainstream either in one of the schools, mainstream which is closer school on board, mainstream them either at vocational trainings which are required for them further to be getting into livelihood programs, and then further look into jobs for them which is also empowering them. So this is one of the programs which I'm sharing with you is the education plan, which is Childscapes, which is reaching out to around 1,000 odd children across Delhi and NCR, wherein we kind of take around 500 children every year in 50 schools, and which is completely driven under the partnership model, and hence the success of the program is based on the partnership program. This is also one of the flagship program called Cineart, which has come out very importantly from the way we operate, which is cinema, which is also very important for us, that how we reach out to a lot of children who find a lot of sustainable issues mundane on a day-to-day basis at their school curriculum. And cinema is our strength. And hence we bring in a lot of artist community on board, a lot of filmmakers on board, and kind of reach out annually to 3 lakh children, involving NGOs, community schools, and private schools, and making sure that all of these children who are shortlisted and selected become filmmakers for tomorrow on sustainable issues. And then these films, which are really produced by children originally, run in most of our cinema halls, reaching out to around 56 million consumers at a pan-India level. This is just a slide which is going to talk a little bit about, so it's very important that some of our teams within the PVR CSR are also looking at these aspects, which is how to improve our business practices over a period. And of course, one can go about on a specific slide on each top point. Water conservation. We are majorly a guzzler on water, energy, and waste. Hence, it's very important for us to kind of evolve technology, tools, and practices to kind of have alternative programming where we save, we conserve, and we kind of relate with these water, energy, and waste management in a very controlled way. And hence, it's very important for us to kind of look into this. And there is a team which is dedicatedly doing it, especially the engineering team of PVR, which works very closely with the CSR team. And hence, their capacities and our capacities are evolved to make sure that this is taken care at, again, a pan-India level for ensuring that most of our business make more sense by these practices. I thought that these last 4-5 slides would have more, relevance to this topic, where we've always realized that what our team, the CSR team internally, which is quite a large team because we don't report to marketing, we don't report to human resources department, we directly report to the management. Hence, it was very important for us to ensure that the brand is connected very well right from the beginning, and the owners. And the onus is there by the owners itself, and hence the programs and the team is able to maximize those at a ground level too. So we've kind of, and I thought that these are 4 or 5 slides which we are happy to share with you, which would talk about purely learnings and experience, having a strategic partnership, which is by choosing specific organizations on the basis of available informations and resources, which is most effective in achieving the identified objectives, which is what we've always kind of taken forward very well. Like, for example, I mentioned to you about Childscapes, which is never driven by PVR or PVR Nest. It is driven by a lot of other partners. There's government on board, there are local stakeholders on board, there are local shops on board, there are local RWAs and groups on board, which basically run the program together. Hence, there's a strategic partnership which ensures that most of the children who are the beneficiaries of the program finally get their due credit out of the program by reaching to school to get livelihoods, etc. So hence, this is one of the very important aspects which most of the team within PVR Nest take care. The second important thing which we've always kind of worked on is making choices, making the right choices at the right time, which is actually the heart and science of strategic partnerships. We have felt that. None of us make the right choices at all the time. But there are some core principles of effective partnerships that can help us to guide our decisions. And we've always felt that the core of, within the team, the core of principles to see it is that what is our strength? Our strength is a cinema company. What is our weakness? We can't actually have the filmmakers and the artist community. So why not forge and have an alliance between the filmmakers and us, and how best we can overcome our weaknesses through the partnership. So this is one of the example which we use, like the CineArt model, where we actually make choices to bring various diverse groups together to reach out to lakhs and lakhs of children, and then of course to reach out to millions of consumers at a pan-India level. The third important thing which we felt is important for all of us internally to build our internal capacity is the principle in practice. What's the focus? What specific objective did we have? And we have to see whether the multiple objectives are conflicting or complementary. Are we allowing the decisions to be made based on priorities only? That's one thing which we've kind of worked on. And are we measuring whether we have achieved the objectives which are required for the program? And that's a very specific principle which we've kind of built in our practice, so that we build our team on those. This is something which all of us within the team really look upon is outreach. And we ensure that outreach is about reaching out to other groups, organizations, and individuals to work together on a common concern and beliefs. And in practice, outreach can be some single activity, such as approach to the children's organizations on a specific concern in the course of a particular campaign which we are evolving with them. And in diverse aspects, building a long-term relationship with different professionals, as well as organizational sectors like government, women and children organizations, students and youth, neighborhood areas and associations, the business community we operate, the civil society, and activating the society per se. I think this is something which we cannot miss out, media, While we are relating, and most of our team, we are relating, all of us ensure that we also look into our programs and our internal capacity based on how we evolve partnerships which also have certain media connect, so that we can have a successful CSR which reaches out in a constructive media strategy through our programs again. Work with diverse media, both old and new, and making them partners to come on board, and have successful coverages of the initiatives which becomes best practices for others to kind of take on. So hence, we've also been working towards this at an internal level too. This is something which is one of an achievement by us, and as one of the organizations, we feel that we've integrated the ways of partnerships, which is what most of our team internally kind of work out. What do you mean by an integrated partnership? Integrated partnership is making sure that the partnerships and the program include the message that the CSR is just not charity. It's just not giving away money. And it provides the opportunity for people to give support. That's one integrated way to look into the programs which we built in. Also, at the same time, most of the partnership activities promote as much as possible the fundraising possibilities, which also make sure that the programs are developed in a more sustainable way, rather than it behaves as if, the corporates are the funders and the NGOs are the takers. So this kind of a capacity building is built in most of our team members. Integration of partnership and fundraising should take place systematically at an overall strategic planning stage, which is also one aspect which we take care at a level. There are many reasons why we integrate, and hence we all know that integration allows us for multiple use of the same efforts, which is very important reasons why we kind of integrate. It reinforces our image beyond money giving. And it also helps people to help people rather than helping organizations. And that is what we ensure that the team members of NEST, the foundation, PVR NEST, which is a CSR program, and this is one piece of partnership which I built in, which is what most of us within take care of. And hence, which leads into a sustainable CSR strategy with a team which is ready to basically deliver a strong and a focused partnership and a fund management. It ensures that it broadens the base of its CSR works. It diversifies the range of its activities and partnerships. And hence, it is very important for us that knowing about the need of the resources and the organizations which we are dealing with. So most of our CSR and internal capacity building is built on the model of partnership, which is what is the strategy of PVR NEST. And hence, the team members are all being trained towards evolving this, the strategy which comes in from the brand, the strategy which comes in from the product which we are into, and hence that's the team around. And the team is quite big. We are 5 of us, and we kind of monitor the program on a day-to-day basis. And the whole idea is to build in a plan which is, yeah, it's a big team comparatively. You find that not very usually in a private limited company. So I thank you all of you to hear again, and thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thanks, Deepa. I think you touched upon a very important point. Organizations can no longer go alone. To be able to bring about the necessary impact, I guess it's very important to strike strategic partnerships, and I think you've been doing it very well. So may I now invite Lieutenant General Rajinder Singh, who's the CEO of DLF Foundation. Before joining the DLF Foundation, he was heading the largest arm of Indian Army as the Director General of Infantry. As a social innovator, Lieutenant General Singh has been instrumental in expanding the programs of the foundation from its inception. So over to you.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson, distinguished panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, at the outset, I am grateful to the organizers for having given this opportunity to me to talk about a subject which is extremely important. Extremely important from the point of view of 2-3 perspectives. First, it is extremely important because it is the survival interest of the corporates. Second, it is extremely important because it is in the national interest today, if you see the environment which our country faces. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before I talk about the CSR, and before I talk about as to what needs to be done or what I feel should be the perspective as far as linkages between the foundations and the corporates and the NGOs, I think it will be pertinent to spend some time, just about 3 or 4 minutes, to briefly have a look as to what kind of an environment our country faces today. And keeping in view the international perspective, I think it is, and especially on a day when we have just risen from the blasts in Boston, I think it is extremely important for us to understand as to where our nation is heading today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you know that our Indian economy, despite the recent dip, has been doing fairly well. Over last about 8 to 10 years, our average growth has been about 7.5 to 8%, which is very creditable. We have 1 billion, over 1 billion population, which is a great asset in case we want to make it an asset. We have a population where average age of the population is only 28 years. But along with this, there are a tremendous amount of challenges. Challenges in the form of security challenges, challenges in the form of terrorism, challenges in the form of development not reaching down to the poor. We are very lowly placed as far as Human Development Index is concerned. Out of a total of 187 countries, we are placed 134. It's a matter of great shame. Great shame for a country of the size of ours, a great shame for a country which is 3rd or 4th largest economy of the world. Great shame for the kind of human resource that we have, young population that we have, that we cannot really bring our country out of this social turmoil that we are today facing. What are the basic reasons for this? And what can we do? And should the corporates just become spectators and watch only the government to launch certain amount of initiatives and crib when the government says that we want to make it mandatory for every corporate to spend just 2%? I think, Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to sit back and think, are we doing the right thing? Are we doing enough? Unfortunately, the answer is no, excepting for a few corporate houses, which have been traditionally, earlier also, have been doing a lot of good work as far as social responsibility is concerned, as far as launching social initiatives are concerned. I think our track record has been rather poor. What was being talked about in the morning about the public sector, though of course there is a tremendous amount of ground which they need to cover, but their performance, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, has been still much better than the private sector. I think, therefore, the government needs to be complimented for having brought this company's bill, for having shaken the conscience of a normal corporate house. All of us, ladies and gentlemen, including our own corporate, need to do a lot of introspection. And I think this bill will certainly force us to do this. This is a step which is one of the big game changer. And I would like to, therefore, compliment the organizers, particularly the Director General of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, Mr. Chatterjee. I think they need to be complimented for having come out with such a wonderful bill. And I am sure the rules that are going to follow about this bill will also be equally effective. Having said this, I think it is important for us to just sit back and think as to what can corporates do. Corporates are already, in many cases, are already doing a lot. They are doing, they have concentrated on a right kind of project in many cases. But not in all cases have they been able to identify as to what they need to do to be able to make sure that we contribute towards nation building. I will just give you one school of thought, ladies and gentlemen. I don't claim to be speaking the only truth, but I think it is important for us to sit back and think about this. One of our major problems today is the difference of income between the rich and the poor. One of our major problems today is that urbanization has forced a lot of people to change, to shift to the towns and cities. And this has led to a lot of problem regarding mushrooming of slums, growth of unemployment, which has its own attendant problem in the form of law and order problems, increased crime, and others. Now, all this, the basic reason for this, ladies and gentlemen, lies in one issue, that you have a growth of young population. You do not have enough jobs for it. You do not have enough jobs because they are not properly skilled. You are not able to provide to a family what is their rightful place in the society. So therefore, I think one thing which all our corporates can certainly do is to build communities. And one way of doing it is to promote that kind of skilling, promote those kind of activities which lead to that man becoming either a good local entrepreneur or a person getting skilled in a manner that he gets a proper job. When you skill a man and get him a job, you actually empower 5 people. He, his wife, his children, his parents. And I think there cannot be a greater punya than this. There cannot be a greater sense of charity than this. And I think, therefore, to my way of thinking, empowering community will come from skilling and getting them jobs. This, and therefore, we in our organization, I'm not going to be talking about my organization very much, ladies and gentlemen, but in our organization, that is in the DLF Foundation, we have chosen skill development to be our main project, in which we aim to skill 1 million people over next 10 years. Second thing, which will lead to this, is also to empower communities by getting them good education, by nurturing talent. And that is another issue that we have undertaken. Now, having said all this, I think the main topic of this session is about linkages between the foundations and the NGOs. Why are these linkages important? Ladies and gentlemen, all corporates, whatever they may be doing, in case they want to make a credible difference in society, they have to move out. Of course, they need to do whatever is their specialization as well, but they need to move out and look after the needs of the community. The needs of the community may not fall into the specialization of the corporates, and therefore they will have to partner with the people who are specialists in the field. NGOs are one organizations who will work selflessly to be able to create a difference in the society, and therefore these linkages, ladies and gentlemen, I feel are extremely important. Traditional one-way philanthropy is not what I'm suggesting. It is not just writing down checks and giving it to an NGO and asking him to do a job. No. What I am suggesting is that there should be joint activities. We believe in sharing knowledge, sharing assets, sharing techniques, and sharing methodologies. We have to do it together. These organizations, whether they are NGOs or other specialist organizations, along with the foundations, need to bear this in mind. The relationship between the two involves joint planning, implementation, and finally, the evaluation of whatever they have been able to do, and do the joint impact analysis. Some of the parameters that we have for the selection of these are quite common. Just give me half a minute, ma'am. These are basically, we select these NGOs based on 4 issues: experience, area coverage, reputation, and commitment to the cause. And of course, there can be a lot which can be said about this. But finally, I would like to only mention that our linkages with the NGOs are actually key to a good functioning or good implementation of CSR projects. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. And the approach of don't give the fish, but teach how to fish through empowerment and skill building is a very important point that one must, as an organization, look into. So going on to the next speaker, Mr. Praveen Agarwal, the CEO of Swadesh Foundation, which is founded by UTV. Praveen has engaged with several Fortune 500 companies, SMEs, and management institutions on CSR. So let's hear what he does at Swadesh. Thanks.
Thank you, friends. Thank you, organizers, for giving me this opportunity to be with all of you. I've been fortunate to be sitting here since morning and listen to all the sessions so eminently chaired or addressed by Mr. Chatterjee himself personally. It's very difficult to speak when in the audience you have the person who is making the policy and who is grounding those policies in such an effective manner. But sir, believe me, let me try to bring my experience of 26, 27 years in the corporate India and in the NGO sector now, and try to share some challenges. My presentation is split in 3 parts, which are also reflecting some of the roles that I played in my previous 26 years of journey. I'm presently heading Swadesh Foundation, and as an organization which is rapidly scaling up to reach 1 million people directly in a span of 4 to 5 years with clearly articulated exit strategy and with an estimated overlay of about 500 crores in next 5 years. What are the key challenges that we are facing as we are implementing our projects at this point in time? The second part of my presentation would talk about a case study, which is when I was heading CSR and sustainability for Coca-Cola India and Southeast Asia. The kind of partnership that we're trying to form and what are the challenges that we're facing to implement CSR programs across India and 6 other countries, which I was looking at. And third is overall challenges and probably some solutions in implementing CSR or forming such partnership, which have been so vociferously and so eloquently mentioned by two previous speakers, particularly Deepa and General Rajendra Singh ji. I think they've actually set the tone for my presentation. So I begin with this thinking, if we can move the slides together. Very brief introduction about Swadesh, what it stands for. So in our word, in our name, is actually reflection of ourself, our belief, our ability, our capabilities to make a transformation in our lives. This has been founded by Ronnie Screwvala and Zarina Mehta, both founders of UTV and UTV Motion Pictures, which is now known as UTV Disney. However, the foundation is a family foundation. It has no corporate or CSR linkage with UTV or Disney at this point of time. It is totally a philanthropic activity of two very eminent individuals who have committed a very large part of the wealth for upliftment of the society. Our vision clearly articulated, which is also behind on the back of our visiting card, is rural empowerment through best practices, modern technology and values. Our mission, as I mentioned in the opening sentence of my presentation, is to transform the lives of 1 million people in 5 years. We are putting 5 years because we realize that unless we put our neck on the block, we don't commit to the timelines, we don't start working like a very lean and mean and result-oriented corporation, probably we won't be anywhere. We would probably take another 30, 40 years to make that kind of impact, but we are probably in a hurry. We feel that every day that we are planning or not working or not executing is probably a day lost in the service of mankind. So we are trying to push our agenda faster, so much faster. We are taking a 360-degree development approach, which means we are trying to work in almost all the touch points of a human life, starting from health, education, water, livelihood, sanitation, agriculture. And it may be in a colloquial manner called a cradle to grave kind of an approach. So from a prenatal testing, prenatal involvement with the mother and child to ensure safe delivery of kids and their career progression, education, livelihoods, and so on and so forth. These are some of the core values that we stand for. We saw in IBM's presentation, they spoke about values. There are a lot less NGOs or the civil society players which have such a set of articulated values. We are trying to emulate best practice in the corporate sector. So integrity, accountability, excellence, people first. Most importantly for us is the last bullet, which is can-do attitude. So we believe that we have the power in our hands right now. The people who are present here, we can change the fortune of India and our people. Some of our unique strengths, very competent team of people, almost 100 professionals right now, which is growing. Doctors, engineers, MSW, BSWs, and so on. ISO certified organization, 35 AC, FCRA. We are trying to go beyond the governance, beyond the compliance issues. Some of the objectives I'm stating here, I'll not delve into the details, but overall we are trying to provide 360-degree holistic development to 1 million people to begin with in next 5 years, and then move forward. So vertical-wise, these are some details. These 12 months goal, if you read any one of these goals, for instance, if we look at even water and sanitation, we want to scale up to drinking water program to 30 gram panchayats, which would mean typically 100 villages and 10,000 households directly, which means providing 200 liters of drinking and domestic water through the tap supply in every household, in 10,000 households. And this is 1 year goal, dear friends. So similarly, there are well-articulated goals, but numbers are mind-blowing. Not mind-blowing for a government sector or for a state government, but for a civil society player or for a corporate to look at these kind of numbers and the direct impact that could be actually numbing. So what were the challenges? What are the challenges that we are facing at Swadesh Foundation as we're trying to ramp up the scale? Cost, how to maximize the impact while optimizing the cost. A very key challenge. All the NGOs should grapple with this, should try to find other solutions. Can we collaborate to address these challenges? Replicability. How do we replicate, how do we identify good models, successful models, and how do we replicate them to success? Can we make it pan Maharashtra, pan rural India? Can we cover entire district, entire block, instead of touching a few hamlets at some places? Be philanthropic in the same key challenges in the community. Be philanthropic in spirit, but function like a business in practice. So, as I mentioned earlier, even the civil society, people like us, we need to be lean and mean. We need to be controlled by our KRAs, key result areas. We need to be accountable. We also need to be able to put our necks on the chopping block in case we don't deliver time-bound results and deliver on the impact. Communication, Deepa and one or two other colleagues mentioned about the power of communication. Typically in the civil society, we are not good in telling the stories. We need to unleash the power of storytelling, how some of the little things are changing lives across rural India. And this knowledge or this storytelling has to be converted into wonderful knowledge which can be replicated, which can be shared. We don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So if there is a good livelihood solution which General Rajendra Singh from DLF Foundation has, I should be able to have open access to this, learn and practice in my areas of geography. How do we leverage technology? One challenge I'm facing right now, we have almost 3,000 self-help groups and over 1,000 community level volunteers whom we pay small honorarium every month. Now the key challenge is, how do I monitor them? How do I control them? How do I take grassroots upwards feedback from these people? How do I convert this information into knowledge and in real time? So there's no point in getting this data and trying to analyze this after 18 months and then taking a decision after 24 months. And by that time, probably the aspiration levels of perception of the communities might have changed or the economic scenario might have changed. Planning for CSR is a core process and increasing volunteerism. This is one area that as we engage with more and more corporates, as our donors and partners and knowledge partners, we are finding that these core thoughts, how to integrate CSR in the core planning process is difficult, and probably in the civil society, we can play a role in imbibing these values. I'll now talk through in next 2-3 minutes about some challenges that I faced or we faced when I was heading CSR and sustainability for Coca-Cola India and Southwest Asia. We formed a partnership with UN Habitat, which is a global agency looking at habitat solutions, creating livable habitats. So how we started was, we tried to map out our shared vision. So Coca-Cola's vision, being a hydration company, it has special interest in the quantity and quality of water. UN Habitat had a mandate to promote socially and environmentally sustainable towns and cities. So there was a common area which was water and sanitation. So we identified that common area of work or partnership together. We developed a three-way model in 3 different geographies, Nepal, West Bengal, and Madhya Pradesh. At one place, we were talking about water and sanitation. At other place, we were talking about rainwater harvesting. In third place, we were talking about drinking water in Nepal. So we had 3 clearly defined, articulated projects in 3 different areas so that we could have measurable outcomes and impact assessed. As we joined hands together, 9 more partners joined. The monies that we were looking at, we started the partnership with $150,000 each. And eventually, this was a XXX effect on the funding. Many more communities we were able to reach. Much more water we were able to save. Many more people we were able to serve directly. So what were the learnings? We learned through this example and many more partnerships that we formed across, whether it was Save the Children Plan, World Vision, any other large or grassroots NGO, is partnership is the way forward. Unless we collaborate and we work together, we share complementary skills and resources or supplementary resources, etc., we won't be able to make a headway. One of my earlier speakers mentioned very clearly, at the corporates, we don't have the skills to mobilize the communities or to understand social issues as well. But the skills that we bring are probably about the management efficiency, cost controls, implementation. We can use some of the tools about Gantt charts and PERT and all of that to monitor the implementation, and also probably sometimes we are very good at communications. So there are skills that we need to match with each other and work. So there are a list of benefits that the partnership deliver. I personally very strongly believe that the way forward to move on the CSR is to form very meaningful partnership where the heart and mind is together, where the visions of the organization from top to bottom are stitched together. I'll just take 2 minutes more, yeah? Now, how do we structure these partnerships? Identify the partner with due care as you're going to get in the matrimony alliance. Like you select your life partner, you need to be very careful about your corporate partner or for a corporate like their NGO partner. As I mentioned, it has to be partnership of heart and mind. So it's not only necessary because our philosophy is matching, but our goals, our value system should also be in sync with each other. We should look for long-term relationship, typically a project-based 1 year, 6 months relationship between Indian corporate wouldn't work. It wouldn't deliver the kind of results that we are expecting. Transparency, governance, communication, we have touched already. More importantly, look beyond the obvious. Look for the hidden strengths. Most of the time in NGO world, we look at corporates' deep pockets and the monies, and we look at monetary partnerships. Why can't we look beyond this, the intangible assets that the corporates have, the huge distribution channels that you have, the huge brand equity that you have. For instance, at Coca-Cola, I had 100,000 vehicles plying, which were kind of mobile hoardings. And nobody in my 10 years at Coca-Cola, none of the civil society player approached me and said that, Praveen, you have 100,000 mobile hoardings and 100,000 into 3 sites, backs, both the sites, on the roads almost 12 hours a day. Can you help us deliver some kind of social messaging to the communities? Nobody approached us. So how do we overcome some of the challenges? Challenges around governance, transparency, reporting, and documentation. Some of us NGOs could be pretty good in voluminous reporting, but is it meaningful reporting? I have my doubts. Could we make meaningful, crisp management functional reporting, which allows management decisions? Ability to innovate. Probably we don't have, we just try to do same kind of things. We are not looking at cost controls. There's a lot of inefficiency which happens in our world here. Implementation, we always take a guys under, society में, community में काम करते हैं, there are always some slips. आज community में सरपंच नहीं मिला, आज village development committee नहीं हुआ, तो project move कर गया, election आ गया. But these things typically don't cut ice with the corporates. So we need to pull our strings here. We need to clearly articulate our partnership terms, identify our capability gaps, and so on. So these are some things that we did to address these challenges. I can share the presentation for the paucity of time. I'll not run through all of these, but some of the things, as some of my predecessors mentioned, joint community mobilization, forming operations team, having robust documentation, having community participation, creating some basic tools for operation teams, whether it is standards for material quality, timelines, etc. The very last 2 slides, how do we put together a team? I think the team in the corporate, you need to have multifunctional, cross-functional teams, typically having involvement of HR, technical, quality, environment, besides your CSR professional. There are different ways of working on the capacities of the staff. However, the key most important areas where we need to all focus, and this is the parting slide, which is monitoring and evaluation skills. We need to deliberate how do we enhance our skills around monitoring and evaluation, which is both sides. Project management skills, we have been less clinical in our project management. Communication skills, fostering partnerships, select inclusion of non-fund based activities, which I mentioned earlier. Investing for impact. Don't forget that any corporate is giving money, they're looking for real-time results for short-term, and value systems should also be in sync with each other. We should look for long-term relationship, typically a project-based 1 year, 6 months relationship between Indian corporate wouldn't work. It wouldn't deliver the kind of results that we are expecting. Transparency, governance, communication, we have touched already. More importantly, look beyond the obvious. Look for the hidden strengths. Most of the time in NGO world, we look at corporates' deep pockets and the monies, and we look at monetary partnerships. Why can't we look beyond this, the intangible assets that the corporates have, the huge distribution channels that you have, the huge brand equity that you have. For instance, at Coca-Cola, I had 100,000 vehicles plying, which were kind of mobile hoardings. And nobody in my 10 years at Coca-Cola, none of the civil society player approached me and said that, Praveen, you have 100,000 mobile hoardings and 100,000 into 3 sites, bags, both the sides, on the roads almost 12 hours a day. Can you help us deliver some kind of social messaging to the communities? Nobody approached us. So how do we overcome some of the challenges? Challenges around governance, transparency, reporting, and documentation. Some of us NGOs could be pretty good in voluminous reporting, but is it meaningful reporting? I have my doubts. Could we make meaningful, crisp management functional reporting, which allows management decisions? Ability to innovate. Probably we don't have, we just try to do same kind of things. We are not looking at cost controls. There's a lot of inefficiency which happens in our world here. Implementation, we always take guys under, society में, community में काम करते हैं, there are always some slips. आज community में सरपंच नहीं मिला, आज village development committee नहीं हुआ, तो project move कर गया, election आ गया. But these things typically don't cut ice with the corporates. So we need to pull our strings here. We need to clearly articulate our partnership terms, identify our capability gaps, and so on. So these are some things that we did to address these challenges. I can share the presentation for the paucity of time. I'll not run through all of these, but some of the things, as some of my predecessors mentioned, joint community mobilization, forming operations team, having robust documentation, having community participation, creating some basic tools for operation teams, whether it is standards for material quality, timelines, etc. The very last 2 slides, how do we put together a team? I think the team in the corporate, you need to have multifunctional, cross-functional teams, typically having involvement of HR, technical, quality, environment, besides your CSR professional. There are different ways of working on the capacities of the staff. However, the key most important areas where we need to all focus, and this is the parting slide, which is monitoring and evaluation skills. We need to deliberate how do we enhance our skills around monitoring and evaluation, which is both sides. Project management skills, we have been less clinical in our project management. Communication skills, fostering partnerships, select inclusion of non-fund based activities, which I mentioned earlier. Investing for impact. Don't forget that any corporate is giving money, they're looking for real-time results for short-term and long-term. So there has to be every penny's worth of money which has to be delivered to the corporate. And finally, building perspectives for scalable, replicable, and sustainable models. So these are some of the thoughts coming from some of the experiences I've had on both sides of the table in corporate and NGO. Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Thanks, Praveen. Cradle to grave approach on CSR, which is time bound by Swadesh. George Hamilton heads the Institute for Sustainable Communities, our next speaker. And he would share with us a very successful CSR activity, break down why it was successful, outline learnings, and link it back to effective CSR skills and strategies. Over to you.
Okay, is this working now? I guess it is. Okay, thank you very much. And I'm to bring the international perspective on this. I really appreciate IICA's organization of this conference. I particularly appreciate Mr. Chatterjee's excellent presentation this morning on the new law, which sounds wonderful. Everyone was in rapt attention. I really admired that. I also appreciate my panelists who have covered some excellent points today and consistent with what I would want to cover. I think the importance of partnership is critical. The fact that we need to unleash the power of business to solve some of our most important problems, not only in this country but in the world, is actually absolutely what is behind all of this. The skills that were articulated by IBM were perfect, I thought, in terms of what should be followed in the CSR, and also the power of the story, which I'm hoping to replicate right now to tell you about a story that we've had. Now we've had, next slide please. So we've worked in about 25 countries, and we have about 10 strategic partnerships with international companies in a variety of sectors, working on a variety of projects. And what I thought I would do is to tell you one particular story about our experience working with a few of these companies and what we learned in that process. Before I do that, I just thought I'd go through some of the learnings at the beginning and at the end so you can listen for them in the story. So we'd heard about the importance of looking at systemic solutions. Okay, so this is not just about volunteering at the local school to teach people about environmental education or social awareness. It's about looking at the teacher training college and introducing a curriculum there that ends up training thousands of teachers all across the country. By going to the teachers college to where the teachers are being trained, it's much more efficient to put in your expertise, to apply your expertise. So thinking systematically is important. Also, we heard a lot about it's not just about the money. It's about technical assistance and, surprisingly, influence. I mean, these lessons learned are related to both NGOs and the corporate sector. They go both ways on both counts. So it's not just about the money, it's about technical assistance and influence. The corporate sector can be very powerful with different stakeholders in society, and sometimes the NGOs can be more powerful depending upon the situation. Collaboration equals leverage, right? This is not just a fun or a thing you have to do to collaborate. It's actually a way to leverage a bigger impact for your investment. And remember, you'll be judged, your brand, the brand that you have as a company, is enhanced by the level of impact you have with CSR. Metrics are relevant. You often in a company have a lot of metrics to measure your profit. Well, do it in terms of impact in CSR, and you'll be ahead of the game. And also, this is very helpful to your nonprofit partners who often don't think in terms of metrics. And that relationship can be one in which you'll end up strengthening the NGO partner while also getting a better return on your philanthropic investment. And then we heard a lot about strategic alignment. NGOs have to know what the strategy of the company is. Once you understand their strategy and it aligns with what you want to accomplish, you'll have a lot more power and a lot more success. Okay, so why are these people smiling? Okay, this is the vice president of Walmart. This is a senior US government official. This is Jeffrey Immelt, who's the head of GE. You may recognize Bill Clinton, and this is me and my NGO partner from China. And they're all up there, and 20 years ago, they would not be smiling. They probably wouldn't be on the same stage with one another, okay? So what has happened? That NGOs, government, business can be there smiling together about a project. Well, this is the story. So my organization was interested in working in China on environmental health issues, resource efficiency, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Because what we do as an organization is our focus is on accelerating sustainable development and climate solutions with a particular focus on cities and factories, because we think that's the most important thing. In terms of the fate of the planet, we need to address sustainability on those sectors. So we focused on China because they're large emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. They have high incidence of environmental health problems. So we went into the country and we said, did a lot of listening and learning, and we realized we're not going to have much influence as an NGO working in China, particularly from the United States. how are we going to build trust? So we decided to partner with GE and brought together a lot of the big companies that had supply chain in China. And since factories were the largest source of environmental health problems, the largest energy users, the largest source of GHG emissions, we thought we wanted to influence how factories are managed in China. And what GE said was, what we're worried about is we audit our suppliers and we consistently see them violating their audits. They're not meeting their audits. So we're worried about the next headline in the New York Times which says our supply chain is abusing its workers or abusing the environment. So our brand was at risk. So we want to do something about our supply chain. Walmart said the same thing. Nike, Adidas, Honeywell, Alcoa, Pfizer, all of these different companies said, we have a problem with our supply chain. So we said, what if we cooperate in a strategic partnership to transform the way factories are managed in China? And we'll do that by developing a training academy called the Environment, Health, and Safety Academy that would have world-class curriculum that would be donated by the companies, right? So they donated their technical expertise. They were already doing training for their individual factories, but this way, by combining forces, they could then get more bang for their investment, right? By all contributing to the same curriculum. We then supplemented that curriculum with expertise from various other places, NGOs and experts. We partnered with Chinese universities who donated their facilities. So they donated their facilities, the companies donated their resources and their technical expertise, and all of it was to the NGO platform because these companies were able to, because we were neutral, right, and our mission, and we were a nonprofit, they could donate their curriculum without, to the common platform that they knew that would be for a nonprofit purpose, instead of donating or sharing their material with one another because it's proprietary, right? So this way they could actually give it to the nonprofit without having to worry about the proprietary issues. And because they were investing in the development cost, it ended up buying down the training. So because the development costs were paid for, the curriculum was paid for, the cost of the training ended up being about 30% of what it would be for an equivalent training from somewhere else. So as a result, there are now 2 of these academies in China. They're training 4,000 factory managers per year in state-of-the-art environment, health, and safety practices at a price that small and medium-sized enterprises can afford. This has had a significant impact on reducing environmental emissions, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, improving energy efficiency, and worker health and safety. And we just discovered a few days ago that Apple did an evaluation of all the training, environment, health, and safety training. We're speaking of Steve Jobs earlier. The environment, health, and safety training in China, and they concluded that our academies were offering the training with the best value. So they're now requiring their suppliers to go to our training centers. Now these are locally owned and operated, which means that over time, they're going to become fully financially self-sufficient, and we're only going to stay involved just to ensure quality control for our corporate partners, because the corporations don't want to have this thing fall apart over time. So we're going to stay involved and maintain the brand of the academies and the quality of the academies, but they're going to be completely financially separate from us in just a few years. So this model then has been adopted by the Chinese government. They've taken our curriculum and they've turned it into a professional certification that they're piloting in Guangdong. And if it's a successful pilot, they're going to make it national, which means there'll be a new profession in China called Sustainability Manager or EHS Manager. Also, the university partners we partner with have folded into their curriculum. So there are all these different partnerships that grew out of this partnership, and all this influence because we all combined our efforts, and we became much more powerful as a result. Back to the slide. So it was a systemic solution, right? Because we focused on where is the environmental health problem greatest? Where can we have the biggest impact on environmental health, greenhouse gas reduction, energy efficiency? And we mobilized all of the resources available to all of the partners. By collaborating, we leveraged 1 to like 40 or 50 times the investment of the individuals. And the metrics were important because a lot of the credibility of the academies was because we were able to prove the trainings were having an impact, and that's what everybody wanted to show. And then finally, strategic alignment, right? Everyone had an interest, that, including GE, Walmart, and others, that were important to their business. So their business was aligned, their CSR was aligned, they were aligning with our NGOs, with the university, and with the Chinese government. So all of those alignments came in place. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions. I want to introduce Pradeep Nair, who's our country director. And we have an office here now, and we'll be working on sustainable urban development and sustainable factories in India. And it's a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you.
Thanks, George. I think one important point that I personally liked about was combining forces on sustainability, on social initiatives. This is a very important element and an opportunity, as I would see, for corporates in India to really consider. So we have exactly 10 minutes for questions, and I would request you to please introduce yourself and who the question is directed towards.
Hello, my name is Neha. I'm from Odisha, and I'm quite interested about Deepa's presentation regarding the PBR films, and just would like to know more from you. You've been working with many children and then training them as filmmakers, if I have understood it clearly. So is there a future plan of leveraging their skills in future, or like you supporting these children across their ages? How do you actually look at this, or you are just giving some trainings to them and then leaving at that point?
So basically, very specifically, this program is called CineArt. It is a 1-year long engagement with the set of schools, and they are diverse NGOs and community schools and private schools. And it's the only window where actually so many different kind of schools work together. There is a very strong, focused knowledge sessions based on the themes annually we work around. And then based on that, there are a lot of submissions and original works which comes from their end. And then, of course, we move on to, train them with specialized commercial filmmakers who come on board on a non-commercial rate. That's what we partner on. We forge with a lot of filmmakers and artists who come on, train these kids to basically come up with their original films. There are, of course, a lot to a next level to these initiatives. These can be later on, of course, be also evolved at a school level, which is what we also want to kind of take it forward at a more sustainable way, where schools actually create these clubs and train the trainers program, where actually the children who have kind of become the young filmmakers further go ahead and kind of create their own clubs. So these are some of the programs which are under process, and we want to kind of evolve them also at the school level.
Should you store these films that has been
they are like, they become our archival films, which we call films for change. Further are shown to other sets of children at a pan-India level.
That's quite interesting. In fact, we also do a very small film festival on 1 minute, 2 minutes documentaries on the issues of disability. Okay. And in fact, basically there are non-disabled filmmakers who have been making the films, and then there are some disabled people who also started making the films, and it was actually quite interesting for me. If we also could have some disabled children, taking up those kind of courses, and then probably in future you have them as filmmakers.
Sure, we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
sure, thanks. Yeah.
Praveen,
Sorry, you want to go first? All right. This question is also directed to Deepa. Media Connect was an intent that I jotted down during your presentation. Representing an NGO, having a Media Connect could be an expensive affair. And we have been looking at various means of creating visibility for the NGO. Is this the mic? All right. So would there be opportunities where we could partner on a reduced cost for NGOs, where we could create visibility for the kind of work that we do? That's my question to you.
No, I mean, when I said about media strategy per se, it is undoubtedly giving a very positive PR towards the program and the campaign, usually the NGO or the foundation is evolving. It's important for us that the program makes sense to every one of us. Hence, of course, media will kind of take those programs and campaign at a very, you don't need a PR agency. You don't need a media inventory space to kind of talk about your campaigns and programs. If your campaigns and program has the ability to reach out to masses and it makes sense to them, I'm sure every media and every PR would be right on your doorsteps to talk about it. We've never done that in spite of it. If you go to any of the PVR cinemas, you won't see anything about Nest. We don't talk through our own inventory about our program. That's one thing which we don't do at all. And whatever we have done under Nest Foundation comes naturally, and we invite, of course, to events and campaigns when they are culminating. So I think an NGO, when you're founding an NGO and you are working towards an NGO's foundation and its work and its activities, most of it comes from the campaign and the program which you are evolving. And what relevance, like for example, it's the relevance of autism, disability, various issues, can be evolved from the program and how you map it up over a period. And then develop that and make it interesting for every stakeholders who's coming on board. And then kind of reach out. You should never do a proactive media campaign. You should just do a very reactive, which is coming out.
I'd like to clarify that what I meant by visibility is for a particular project that we are launching very soon for lesser privileged children. We want to engage change managers. Having to release an ad like that costs a lot of money. So that's where I was talking about visibility, to attract people to come as volunteers, partner with us to contribute to the program, and not visibility per se for the NGO. So the PR part is a completely different
It is
gamut.
more on from the point of advertorial, and it is more in terms of advertisements you're talking about. And I think it's also about how you kind of reach out to the media. What do you put them, I mean, what deliverables they get out of it. And I think that's the time when actually the media shows interest to reach out to various causes. And also you'll have to align probably with the kind of media who would be interested with the kind of programs which you are exhibiting. And hence that kind of partnership can be evolved.
Sure.
I just want to add, this is where you need to learn the social media skills. It's very powerful these days, right? So there are two things that I wanted to say. One, don't go chasing after the media because it's not right. If it is impactful, automatically that happens. The second thing is, this is where the collaborative thing that George and I earlier talked about. When you have a corporate on board, there are certain skills that you can learn from them, and you can do it. And the third thing is social media. I think it's become very important for all of us to kind of learn the social media skills and to be able to leverage it.
We are working on creating a platform on the social media.
Yeah, it's absolutely essential. And I think that's what we need to be really
Thank
learning the new skills to do
Yes.
things differently
Sure.
is very important.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There is only one thing I would like to mention. I don't think we can legislate that only this particular mode of communicating will do, and the others will not. I think it depends on, firstly, from situation to situation. Secondly, it is also extremely important that whatever you do is known to people. I'm talking of the activities must be known. I'm not talking of preferentially as to what your organization is doing. Though, of course, your board of directors would certainly want that your name, if you are spending so much money, if you are putting so much of effort and all, they would certainly want the brand, like Parul was mentioning, the brand name to go up. And there is nothing wrong in it. The point is that we need to do things which are socially relevant. Once they're socially relevant, media will pick it up. And media will talk about it. Only thing you can hope for is that there is no politician like Mr. Pawar making a statement like the way he did. Because if that happens, of course, the space will go to him.
A question to Mr. Praveen Agarwal. You've heard of Abdul Kalam's Pura policies, point number one. Point number two, the concept of design, how it impacts on transformations. You know, the same person goes and spits on a railway station, but he won't spit in a metro. So there's a use of design over there also. So have you tried to integrate this in the rural areas that you're working on?
We are trying to emulate some of these things. I wouldn't say at this point of time that we have succeeded. So far, we have been engaged only in water and sanitation, a little bit about agriculture. Only since last 13 or 14 months, we have changed our model to holistic 360-degree development. But we do very firmly believe that attitudinal change are one of the most important things to bring about in the society. The local level empowerment, their understanding of the right social dynamics, issues, etc., helping them understand and then work for solutions for themselves. So we can only act as a catalyst. But what we are trying to do is bringing global best practices, the best talent available in the country for our foundation or an NGO, whatever you like to call, and see that these values we are able to imbibe in the communities that we are working with. So I won't say we have succeeded at this point of time, but we are trying. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Venkat Rola from RPG. One program that we run called Saksham is about introducing technical education at school level itself, which is the crying need. With 500 million youth coming into the system 8 years from now and 150 million jobs in the manufacturing sector going a-begging, the need of the hour seems to be telling our youth it's cool to also go for a job in manufacturing and studies thereafter. Now, what has happened during my childhood in the film, any cinema hall you go, right in the beginning of the film and also during the intervals, we had the newsreel. It talked about nation on the move. It talked about the temples of India, which is our factories, and how workers have gone through and come out successfully. Today, manufacturing sector is absolutely not known to our youth. Today, our biggest problem is filling these technical schools, and kids are not wanting to do mechanical, electrical, welding, because it's not cool. They would rather work in pizza delivery for 5,000 or a BPO for 6,000, but they don't want a manufacturing job which may take them into 30,000. That is where I think the brand equity of this entire segment is lost. Can PVR and the likes say, yes, henceforth we will show some very interesting films of youth who have gone the manufacturing way and they have been successful?
I would suggest that you make it very sure.
If they are willing to, yeah. And since you're creating films, maybe you've come across skill development issues already, you could bring them along. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. Across the table. Across the table.
But IICA could probably make it a national rule also that all cinema halls should show and populate this thought. It's part of their CSR.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we've come to the end of the session. I think in conclusion, what the learning for me personally is that there are different models available, great models, great learning. At the end of the day, it is up to organizations and NGOs to look at what is best for me, what is my, why, what and how is my CSR going to pan out to be able to make an impact, overall impact in India. I think one very important aspect, and I'm sure Dr. Chatterjee is looking at it, is some kind of a certification program for CSR professionals so that we corporates can go out and actually source from there rather than look out for model. Oh, sorry. I'm sure. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot to all the panelists, and it was a very interesting session. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much to all of our panelists. That was especially engaging. To Ms. Mamta Sharma, Lieutenant General Rajender Singh, Ms. Namita Vikas, Ms. Deepa Menon, Mr. Praveen Agarwal, and Mr. George Hamilton. And we do have small tokens of appreciation.